Let your anger empower you. Now, you were raised by one or maybe two narcissists, maybe more. And because you were treated in ways that were abusive and unhealthy, there's no doubt that as a child, your first reaction would have been anger, right? That is our natural and healthy response when we feel like our boundaries are being crossed. This is what anger, part of the reason why we have anger is it's a message that says someone's crossing my boundary and I need to do something about it. But if you have a narcissist parent, which you did, if you're watching this, then if you as a child got angry or frustrated or showed any kind of protest for their unhealthy and abusive behaviors, then they would load on more abuse, more punishment, more shame, more blame. And so you probably realized quite quickly that there was no escaping the narcissist's I'm just going to say crappy behaviors. So what we did as children is we ended up taking on their shame because there was no way that we could protest. There was no way we could set boundaries. We weren't allowed boundaries. And so really, we just took on their shame. Like, for example, if your parent is being non-responsive to you, then, your first reaction is, hey, why aren't you responding to me? Arr, right? But then, as time goes on, if that keeps happening and, they're not changing that behavior, then we start to think it must be me. It's something is defective about me. I'm unworthy. I'm unlovable. I'm despicable. I'm disgusting or whatever. And so these narcissists get away with their shitty behaviors while we, as the scapegoat, start to take on all of their shame like a sponge. And it's funny because I was shopping for a sponge just the other day and realizing, wow, I've really, even in my nanny jobs, have been taking on other people's shame, and it is exhausting. So we need to, in order to recover, we need to take back that healthy anger and understand that your needs are valid, completely valid, and worthy of being met. And you are precious, so precious, my dear. You are a child of God. And not only are you a child of God, you're no more or less than anyone else, but you are an evolved soul on this planet. And that can be an incredibly frustrating place to be. If you think of, a 12-year-old trying to play with a 2-year-old and not realizing that the 2-year-old is a 2-year-old and can't do things that the 12-year-old can do, you can imagine the absolute, the rage that could come about from that. And that's what we need to think about ourselves as, really need to, once you open your eyes to the world, once your denial starts falling away and see there is a world of trauma out there, everyone filled with trauma, wounded children. It's a hard reality to face, but that is the fact. And we are as well. And we have to own our own dysfunctional behaviors and own, our own unhealthy behaviors. Anyway, that being said, these narcissists will, just unload their shame, and somehow they kind of know what they're doing. It's unconscious. I was just thinking of, some examples. I started this nanny job, and I wasn't even acknowledged when I walked in the door. it was kind of hello, but no one said my name. The parents didn't really look at me. And I was just sent into flashback. And yeah, what's happening, I think, is what, the father is in his own shame. And in order to relieve his own pain, he needs to find that scapegoat, because he doesn't want to sit with feeling like I'm feeling like a shameful, horrible parent right now, or whatever I don't know what was going on. So he ignores me. And then I think, oh, what's wrong with me? Why isn't he acknowledging me? Why isn't he saying, good morning, Davina, how are you? And then I'm taking on that shame. And the shame can also quickly go into depression and hopelessness and despair. It can, and then just really exhaustion, because our needs aren't being met. That's exhausting. And so you might, like, as the scapegoat of your family, you may have still be unconsciously taking on other people's shame. And it can happen in really small, subtle ways, or in bigger ways too. The narcissist has many clever tactics that they use so that, for example, if you bring up an issue with them, and you try to do it in a respectful way, but they just give you the silent treatment. Maybe just a blank stare, or they just don't respond to your email, or whatever it is, silent treatment. So, that leaves you with, what's going on? Why didn't they respond? Am I asking too much? Am I being too demanding? And then we start questioning ourselves, and it's an energy sucker. That is, like, narcissists are energy suckers. They are vampires, because when they do things like this, we're left with going, what's wrong with me? Why are they doing this? And I don't understand. And did I say something wrong in the email? Maybe I could have put it in a different way. And we're going on and on in our heads. And, and that's how they gain control of us, because we're so caught up in our heads. Now they can, further manipulate us, because now we become sort of, just more vulnerable to their abuse. And so, it can be just so, as I always say, so insidious, and it can even just be the little slights that they do. Like, I remember this mother, like, would be sitting on the couch, and she'd be telling me something about her life and her problems or her dramas, and I'd be like sitting intently listening and empathizing and asking her questions and clarifying, and being the wonderful listener that all of us highly sensitive empaths are. And then she asks me a question. She goes like, well, what's going on with you, or something like that. And I start to tell her about my weekend. She gets up, she walks away, and she's at the fridge with her back to me as I'm trying to answer. And this is the way that, and then you're like, what? Like, what just happened here? That's, when you start to notice these little things that are happening on the daily basis, it might be in your marriage, it might be in a relationship that you have, or at work. And the more awareness you start to bring, and the more you'll start to see these things, and how the narcissist is able to then, like, suck out your energy. And at the end of the day, you wonder why you're so depleted and exhausted. So this is going on and on. And they know, I think they know that we know, even when we're little children, they sense our sensitivity and our awareness. And they know that we know that they're full of shame. And so they use that scapegoat to unload upon. And, and it just happened to be that we're just there. I mean, it's not a personal thing. It really isn't. However, that does not change the impact that it has on us. So, we need to really dig in and feel the anger, and to as I say, let it rip. So, verbally ventilating it with a safe friend, like just letting it out, letting it rip. And we're not used to doing this. Like even I started doing this morning and it felt strange and awkward. And I think, oh, maybe I'm being mean or something, but just, I'm going to do it for about a few seconds here just to show you. Like, James, how could you be such a fucking asshole? You fucking dick. How dare you treat me like that? Fucking dismissive asshole. You fucking, like just get into it, you gaslit me, you were freaking blaming me, like just like get angry about it. And it feels good to get angry because then the shame, like, oh, because as I've said before, the shame is really self-blame. We've taken, instead of blaming the narcissistic parent, we took on that blame as, self-blame, which is shame, basically. So by setting boundaries, we start to come out of that and we start to, say, I am worthy and I'm not taking your crap anymore. And I deserve to be treated with respect and care. Yeah, so we need to turn that anger onto who it belongs to, the people that are doing these unhealthy, abusive, crappy things. And no, it isn't personal, but we need to, Pete Walker is the master of this, but you can read his book, that The Tao of Fully Feeling, talks about this, of turning, this blame into forgiveness. And it may never become forgiveness, and that's okay too. But we first need to blame. We need to blame our parents, or we need to blame our boss who's treating us like shit, or we need to blame our spouse who is being dismissive towards us, or we need to blame our friend who talks nonstop and then won't listen to us. We need to get angry, like let that anger out. And so once you have done that kind of verbal ventilation, and you can always get physical with it too, in safe ways. I always want to advocate, do it safely, do it among people who, you understand, like, I'm going to vent for 5 minutes. Don't take advantage of other people either. Or, just go to the woods and scream. I might do that today. So we take the shame, we turn it around, we get the anger, we turn it into blame. And then from there, from expressing that anger, what normally happens to me anyways, I start feeling the sadness and I start feeling the hurt. And that is the grief. So we go from the anger into the grief that is underneath those layers of the anger. And once we become, we get to peace, we may come to a place where, we don't have the shame, we don't have the blame. And then we can set a boundary from a better, more centered place. And, I like to think of boundaries of, I've described it as like a sign on your wall, like instructions on your wall. Some people have those things in their house. Like sometimes they just have little joke instructions about, but you could have a serious, like, thing on your wall, be kind, or please empathize. Or I also like to think of it as like, think of yourself as a silk blouse, that needs special care instructions. And you do need special care. You're a highly sensitive person. You need to, if you think maybe a friend that you have who's highly sensitive. I was thinking of a woman that I used to work with, and I used to think, wow, what she gave to me was, amazing. She was so caring, and she always tried to be present with me and listen, and was so compassionate and so caring and so thoughtful, so appreciative. And like, think that's what you give to others. Most likely you give to others that kind of care and attention. And so think of yourself, think of your energy. Your energy is precious. It is like think of yourself like a diamond, like a one of a kind, jewel diamond that's encased of one of those, things, or like a silk sweater, a silk blouse that you got to write out, your special instructions of how this is how you care for the silk blouse, and that's how you can state your boundaries, like just very simple, clear statements. If the person needs clarification, they can ask you, or you can explain it later verbally. But just, I need, empathy. I need listening, I need attentive listening, or, I need attuned responsiveness. I require, what else could you say? I require responsiveness. I require prompt responsiveness. I require balance in my conversations, reciprocity. I require receptiveness. So when I bring up a boundary, that you're going to listen and hear me out. So just, get clear on what your boundaries are. And it takes time, Yeah, so it's also important to understand too how anger shows up in your body. And for me right now, I'm experiencing it as eczema, and I'm realizing that I think this is anger, and you can kind of see it on my eyelids there, and I'm also been getting it on my fingers. My theory, and I think I've read it too, that inflammation is, the manifestation of anger in our bodies. I know I used to experience some pain in my knees, and I don't get that anymore because I've expressed a lot of anger. So, just be curious about, if you have something physical going on, ask yourself, what emotion could that be? Maybe it's anger, or maybe it's something else. So it's great to be curious about, because everything is really energy. You're like, the physical, as you probably understand it too, is, yeah, I don't know. It's something that I think I can't even fathom yet. But yeah, so I'm really curious to know if you are, or you consider yourself the scapegoat of your family, and what that experience has been for you, and what challenges that might be bringing up for you today. So I hope this video has been helpful for you, and I really just, if I want you to get any message today, is to understand how precious you are, and also to understand that you, and only you, are able to set those boundaries, and to take responsibility for getting the care that you so deserve. Yeah, and the reality is we have to explain it to others. We need to tell others because they won't understand. And it's important to be with safe people as well, because if you walk into a relationship and you have to set 20 boundaries, it's probably not the right relation. Actually, it's definitely not the right relationship. But if you walk into a relationship and you talk a little bit about your values and your boundaries, and you're already, on board with each other for like 90% of them, then, great. Maybe there's only a few boundaries that are going to come up. And I suppose more over time, but in the immediate sense, if a relationship is a good match, you won't have to be like swatting people down all the time, because that's also so draining, so exhausting when we're constantly just dealing with boundary violations. It's, how do you live your life, right? How do you have any energy if, that's what I do. Like, I've been doing this for, oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm getting to the point, I think, where I'm just so tired, and I need to, yeah, I'm going to write them down today, go print it out. And the next job interview I have, I'm like, here, these are my boundaries, Anyway, that's enough for this video today. I am Davina Shamaya, and I'm wishing you so many blessings on your journey of healing and awakening. And yeah, please comment below. I would love to hear from you. And you can find me at Boldness Blooming. Thanks for watching.